lovers left lying in the dark. Never faded by the lights or the dark. Across the world, across the ocean, you are. Lighting the lights, the fire inside will never die. Never die. Never die. Never die.
Alright, so here we have Baby Audio's Spaced Out, and this is a combination of delay and reverb and actually about 50 different effects all in one plugin here. So first we're going to go over the interface, sort of see how it works, and then we'll hear it on some more sources. If you just want to know how it sounds on different sources, just head right over user chapters and head over to the demo section. All right, so here we have it on some drums. We'll just bypass it for now. There's our drums. And here on the interface, we can change the skin color from a light or a dark skin. We'll leave it on the dark skin. It's a little bit easier to see the words for the video. Make it larger or smaller. That looks pretty good there. We have a 16-step sequencer for our echoes or our delay. XY pads, essentially XY pads here for your reverb and for the overall wet, dry, or sweeping between our effects. So let's turn off the space side over here and just have this side on. You can turn those on or off just by clicking those buttons. So just our echo side, bringing up the wet if we want. So let's go ahead and set a tap here in our sequencer for our delay. We'll set it on 4. Now, of course, this is synced to the tempo of your DAW. You can set these anywhere you want. If I set it on 1, set it here, set it here. For this, I kind of like it up here. One here on the 4. Sounds pretty cool. If I want to clear out my sequencer here, I can just use this X. If I want a random pattern, I can just generate something. So for this, that doesn't necessarily sound good, but we're just learning how the interface works here. And then up here on our modes, we have straight, ×2, dotted, and triplet. Again, not really going to sound good here, but we'll go through them. ×2. Dotted, triplet. Okay. Sounds good on straight here. Click again, takes that down, or turn it off. Then down here we have our intensity. We can up the feedback, bring the feedback down, and the sustain. A lot of feedback. You can really get out of control there. You put a ton of feedback and a lot of different steps in here. Then we have our dimension. We'll turn it off right now. Make that ultra wide. You can hear it spread out. Do motion. Now you hear it go back and forth like a ping pong. Ultra wide sounds good for this one here. Then we have different textures. It's on clean right now. Put it on like a wonky tape. Kind of lo-fi it up. Make it a bit hazy. Hear that over there on the wet side. You can reverse it. You hear it, reversing now. Then you have a filter, so we can constrain the top end or the low end using our low pass for the top end or the high pass for the bottom end. So as I pull these out, constrain that to the low end or to the top end. So we pulled out a lot of that kick drum doubling. Now we just have that top end with our delays or our echoes. So that is your echoes side. Let's turn that one off. Then over here on the space side or the reverb side, different kind of programs. So think of them as rooms or spaces: vacuum, small space, medium space, or outer space. Then we can drag between the types and the lengths. So we have cosmic, alien, trippy, and lush over here. The overall length of that, essentially the space of the reverb. Make sure I turn it on. Pull this over. You can really hear that. So we're in outer space. Get much smaller. These have different, motions to them, movements to them. Cosmic, alien, you can really hear that, like a flanger in there. Then you have down here for our controls, we have our pre-delay. Essentially what a pre-delay does is like any other pre-delay on any other reverb. Allows that initial transient to come through. If we pull this up, and then essentially reverb here comes on. So if I pull that down, it's immediately on. Pull up the pre-delay. Pull this out here. Pull up the pre-delay. Then the reverb will sort of bloom on. You'll hear it come up there. Again, we're really exaggerating it here in this case. And then we have Stardust, which adds an angelic high frequency shimmer to the top end, and you'll really hear that here. Again, I'm going to really exaggerate this. Pull that up. Really hear that top end. Let's head over to our vocals here, and you'll hear it over here as well.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
Let's start us up.
That in the lights, the fire inside will never, never die. Never, never die. Never, never die. Never.
Hear that top end that it adds in there. So of course, just dial that in to whatever suits you. Over here on mellow, again, we have our filters are low and our high.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
More towards the high end.
End.
Or if it's too shimmery, too chimey, pull out some of that top end.
Across the world, across the ocean,
focus it, focus it wherever I want. We have cleanup, which essentially just makes things a little bit less dense for our reverb.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
Then the overall width.
Inside will never, never die. Never, never die.
All right, then we have our middle section where we can sweep between our echoes and our space and anywhere in between over to 100% wet, 100% dry right here.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are. Never, never die.
Let's set it wherever sounds good to you.
Never, never die.
It's pretty cool right there.
Never, never die.
And then we have a ducker, and what a ducker does is it ducks out that affected signal, ducks it out of the way as the audio is playing, and then it comes up in these spaces where in this case she isn't singing. So let's go ahead and hear what that would sound like. We'll start with the ducker all the way down here.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
It's there all the time, right?
Never, never die.
So let's go ahead and duck that out of the way with an extreme example.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
Then it really comes up, right?
In the lights, the fire inside will never, never die. Never die.
So for this, it's ducked too much, but I can duck it out of the way just the amount that I want there, just by clicking and dragging.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
Let's move this over.
That's
way better.
The fire inside will never, never die.
So that way the effect isn't taking over, the entire track here.
Across the world, across the ocean.
So of course you have your overall output here. To compensate for any changes, volume changes, whenever you add all your different effects in here. Now your ducker, by the way, does also have a sync. It's not going to sound good on this track because it's not actually the same tempo as our session. But if you want sort of that pumping and breathing effect, you can turn on your sync.
Across the world, across the ocean,
you can hear that. Boom, boom, boom.
In the lights, the fire inside will never.
And then we have a lift off on or off right here. It essentially glues all of your effects together. It adds more width and more presence. So everything sort of sticks out a little bit more in the mix and is more audible. So I'll turn it off.
Across the world, across the ocean, you are.
Then turn it on.
Lightning that lights the fire inside will never, never die.
Let's go over to our drums and check that over here. Have it turned off. And then on. Then we have a generate button here, a randomize button for everything. So if you just want to, randomize everything instead of just maybe just your steps over here, you can do it all right here. Maybe you'll find something that you like. Go ahead and save that preset so you can recall it whenever you want. So that is the entire interface of Spaced Out, except for one button we didn't mention yet, and that is the clear button that will clear everything out, put you back to the default. All right, so just choose that if you get all messed up here and you want to go back to the just the default. Click that and you're good to go. All right, so that's the entire interface, how it works, how they sound on a couple of different sources. So now let's move on to the demo section and hear what Spaced Out sounds like on several more audio sources. All right, so let's go ahead and check out Spaced Out on several different audio sources. So we're going to start with the vocal that we heard up top, just because I like the way it sounds with this delay and reverb and all of the other effects that are really built in, about 50 effects built in to this one plugin. So here it is, dry.
Lovers left lying in the dark.
Kind of boring, right?
Never faded by the
All right, let's send this into space.
lovers left lying in the dark. Never faded by the lights or the dark. Across the world, across the ocean, you are. Lightning that lights the fire inside will never, never die. Never, never die. Never, never die. Never, never die.
Much more interesting, and we did all of that with just one plugin. Again, bypassed.
Never, never die. Never, never die.
Yuck, boring.
Never, never die. Never, never die.
Awesome. Let's move on to some strings here. So we'll start out with Spaced Out bypassed. So that's just the strings, all right? Let's go ahead and send this into space. Giving it some motion. Those delays going back and forth. So we can tighten that up on the top end if we want. Focus them around the bottom end there. Dry it out a little more. Cool. Really excites those strings, makes it more exciting overall. Let's go to some piano now. Again, we'll start with this bypassed. All right, so it's all right, but send this thing into space. Sounds much more awesome. So it's kind of cool with that wonky tape on it. It's almost like a chorus. let's go to some guitar here. That's what we have dry. Go ahead and put this into spaced out. Over to the echo side, space side, dry it out a bit, pull it over here, so. This one also sounds pretty cool with that wonky tape on it. So of course it sounds good on guitars. You can use this almost like a multi-effects for guitar with your delay, reverb, chorusy type effects. You know, as you dial this in to say the alien side, it's sort of like a flanger. Let's go to another guitar here. We'll just start with that bypass. Again, kind of boring. Let's go ahead, throw this into space. Much more interesting with that delay and reverb in there. Let's move on to some cinematic drums, and we'll start, of course, with spaced out bypassed. So just the drums. All right, not too bad, not too bad, but make this much more interesting here. Bypass it. Boring. Bring it back in. So this works on basically any source there is. More vocals here.
You're all I need, I wish to be deep in your love, I can't get enough.
Pop it back on.
Why don't you run to me? I crave your company, can't stay away from you. There's nothing I won't do.
Dry out a bit.
Our souls are made of flames, my heart is in your name. Was it all just a game? Or do you feel the same?
Those echoes, that reverb there, really gives it a nice space, much more interesting like that. Let's check out a synth here. And of course, we'll start out with this bypassed. All right, not bad. But go ahead and turn on spaced out. All dry here. And here we have some drums, some percussion, spaced out as bypassed right now. All right, not bad. Let's make this more interesting though. There we go. You don't have to overdo it. We have this way down here. on this dry side. Just giving it a nice space to live in, more depth, more dimension to our audio sources here. Then we have a choir right here. Of course, start out with this bypassed. Just a choir. Make that more interesting. Give it a space to live in, depth and dimension here with spaced out. That Stardust really gives that a nice high-end angelic sheen to all of that. Let's go to another guitar, this time an acoustic guitar. We can start with this bypass here. All right, sounds good. Let's turn on spaced out. Boom, sounds amazing now. Some dimension in there, ultra wide. You can change this to the wonky tape. Sounds pretty cool. Like a chorusy effect to it. You know, I have this up into outer space. You know, we're pushing it way out there in this ethereal sort of space where it's floating around. It's just surrounding you, right? That's what we're essentially doing with this over here on the cosmic side. Pretty long length in there too. And again, we're not overdoing it here. We're not saturating it fully. Just, you know, a moderate amount. Really makes a big difference overall. And we have another synth here. Let's check this one out. Bypassed first. Sort of a EDM style sequence here. Let's pull this on. So that Stardust again is giving us that those high frequencies. Sort of pulling out a bit on the low end here, just a little bit. A bit of ducking here. We have this on the lo-fi texture, ultra wide. Have it, you know, we have a good amount of this dialed in more towards the reverb or the space side here. There we go. And next we have just a simple pad here. This is bypassed right now. All right, really simple pad. Let's give that a nice space here. So use this on any audio source, pads, strings, vocals, guitars, drums, percussion, you know, your synthesizers, even effects. This pad here is sort of like an effect pad. So we have this pretty saturated here. Nice big outer space over to the alien side, which gives us a bit of almost like a flanging effect. Sounds pretty cool. Sounds nice and big like this. You can hear that flanging. All right, and here we have some more drums, like a electronic sequence here. It's just dry right now. All right, let's send this into space. Ready? Here we go. Much better. You want to constrain that top end again, we can filter that if you want. And it's on lo-fi right now. So that is Spaced Out from Baby Audio. Your 50 effects in one, your multi-effects, your wet effects plugin, your reverb, your delay, and all of those other effects that we have here, all in one plugin. This plugin sounds great. I mean, from the moment you just put it on basically any source and you just hit play, even at the default preset, it just opens things up and gives you that depth and dimension, again, all here in one easy to use plugin. All right, so if you want to pick this up, you can always head over to Baby Audio. Of course, we're going to have links in the description below. Head over there, check it out, demo it for yourself, see if you like it. I'm pretty sure you will. And be sure to pick it up for yourself. Again, that is Spaced Out. Send your tracks into space. Of course, however much you want. Don't have to go all the way into space here in wet. Dial in just the amount you want. So again, that is Spaced Out from Baby Audio.